Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to go ahead and get this webinar started. Today's webinar is titled Unlocking the Potential of Marketing Automation, a deep dive into Swift Digital's capabilities. The goal of today's webinar should be to inform you about Swift Digital as a company and also provide you with a good understanding of the capabilities within the Swift Digital platform and show you some of the ways that you can use marketing automation to improve your own communications. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Ryan. I'm based in Melbourne, and I've worked over the last 15 years with Swift and our clients to help provide strategy advice, particularly to our government clients, but also to some of our enterprise clients on ways that they can improve their strategic communications, also ways that they can implement marketing automation across their own organizations, and just to make sure that they're making the most of the Swift Digital platform. Also here with me today are my colleagues Kimberly, T, and Zoe, and I want to say a big thank you to them for helping to set up and run this webinar. I couldn't have done it without them. As we're going through this webinar, if you do have any questions, please feel free to pop them into the chat box. One of them will try to answer your questions if they can, and we'll save some of the questions to answer towards the end as well. There should be a bit of time left over to go through any additional questions that you have. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and go through the agenda for today. So first of all, we will cover a bit of information about Swift Digital, just get you familiar with Swift as a company, for those of you who aren't familiar with us. We'll also cover what's actually in the Swift platform, so what tools are there and what are its capabilities. We'll go through why so many Australian organizations choose Swift as their platform of choice. And then also, I'll talk a little bit about how Swift secures your data and why it's so important that the data remains within Australia. Then after that, we will have a deep dive into the platform. I'll do a live platform demonstration and show you what the platform looks like, some of the different modules that are in there, and show you how easy it is to use. I'll have a screen to go through some of the marketing automation campaigns that I've helped clients set up within Swift. This will be a really good example of some campaigns that you might try implementing in your own organization. And then finally, we may not have time to get to all of these, but there are some features included in this presentation that will help you to improve your own stakeholder engagement. It will be part of the presentation file that we'll distribute towards the end. So if we don't have time to make it through everything, it will be in the file that we send through to you. And also, just so you're aware, we are recording this session, so there'll also be a recording distributed to everyone that you can review later on. All right, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Swift. I know some of you, probably about half of you are existing clients, so you probably already know a lot that's going to be on the next couple of slides that I cover. But for those of you that are new to Swift or just looking to find out more information, Swift is a completely Australian owned and operated company. We've been around for a little over 20 years now, so we are quite established. And we've been working out of Australia all this time. We are really known for having Australia's leading all-in-one marketing automation platform. In the next slide, I'll talk more about what's included within the platform. We have local teams in Sydney and Melbourne, and we are government accredited. And recently, we've received our ISO 27001 certification, which for IT teams that are reviewing vendors like Swift, that's something that they really want to see. We provide assurance of data security and sovereignty, and we also have local Australian support. So this is one thing that a lot of our clients appreciate. We put a lot of effort into our support resources. You'll get local support and assistance. We offer live on-demand assistance whenever you need it. And we have lots of support resources available to you, whether that's unlimited training webinars that we allow you to sign up for, or just being able to get anyone on support chat instantly when you need help. You'll also get dedicated account managers with Swift. They can help with providing strategy advice or how-tos with how you can set up things within the platform. And something else that's unique about Swift is we provide unlimited users or seats within the platform. So we don't charge on a per seat or per user basis. We allow you to add as many users as you'd like, and you control that yourself within the administration area. So that's something that's quite appealing to prospective clients. All right, we'll talk a little bit about what's in the Swift platform, and you'll see this in more detail when we get into the demo. But there are tools within the platform for email marketing, event management, landing pages, online surveys, SMS marketing, and of course, marketing automation. So if you consider for a moment all the different tools that you may be using now for each of these solutions, with Swift, it's really all of those tools combined into one platform. So it's one platform, it's one database. It makes integrating with other platforms like CRMs a lot easier. You only need to create one connection instead of multiple connections feeding in. So that is one comprehensive benefit of Swift is you get everything in the one platform. And then let's look at a few of the reasons that so many organizations within Australia choose Swift Digital. We have Australian business hours, so that's really beneficial if you're looking to get local support for account management. Government accredited, we've spoken about that. The Swift platform itself is very easy to use and accessible to users of any experience level. So you don't need to have any coding knowledge. Anyone can pick up and use Swift. I know some platforms you need years of experience in order to be able to use it successfully. With Swift, you can get up and running in a matter of a few weeks. So it's pretty quick to pick up. We comply with all local and federal Australian legislation. So the Spam Act, the privacy policy and principles, that's something that we're very familiar with and that we comply with. The Swift platform is very scalable. So no matter how large or small your team is, we have some clients that have one person using the platform. We have other clients that have 80 or more users. So it's very easy to scale up, and we provide you with tools to be able to isolate your data or your templates from one business area to the other so you can restrict who can access what. Another thing about Swift that's good to know is we quite often will build custom solutions for clients. So if you need something like a custom subscription form or a custom event solution, that's something that we can scope out with you and build custom solutions for. And then finally, I'll just touch on our automation and integration options. We have the ability to integrate with any external platform that can be done through our APIs. We also have native plugins for you to connect with things like Salesforce or Microsoft Azure Active Directory to automatically sync your lists. There's quite a few different possibilities when it comes to other platforms that you want to connect your Swift account with. And this is an example of some of our existing clients across all levels. These are primarily government clients, but it gives you an idea of the type of clients that we currently work with. And kind of leading into the next slide, of course, for those type of clients, data security is very important to them, and it's also a priority for Swift. So with Swift, we guarantee that your data will always stay in Australia. It's never going to be sent overseas. It means that any data that's held within Australia stays bound by Australian legislation. It's not going overseas and thereby bound by overseas jurisdictions. We use enterprise data security centers, so we use AWS data centers geo-locked to Australia. And we always provide, you can see this in our terms and conditions, but any data that you import into Swift is your data. You always maintain ownership over your data. And should you ever leave Swift, the data is yours to take with you. We provide a few enhanced login security measures. So of course, you'd have your standard username, password with certain protection levels on those. But we also now will integrate through your single sign-on environments, which just provides a more secure method of access. And we also provide multi-factor authentication if you want to have a code on your phone that you might type in every time you want to log into the platform. Just provides additional security. And finally, we perform regular penetration tests. We do this with an independent third-party tester. This occurs 2 times a year. And it's also something that your IT teams will want to see that this is being performed. All right. So that gives you a little bit of an overview of Swift. I'm going to move into the actual demo portion of the webinar now. We'll show you what the platform looks like, the different tools that are included. Let me just switch screens. And we'll run through the platform. So this is the Swift platform. This is what you see when you log in. You kind of see a dashboard of the platform. The publishing calendar will let you know what emails have been sent or what emails are going to go out in the future. And just kind of gives you an update on any announcements that we've made. You navigate to the different modules within Swift through this module dropdown. So you can see the different tools that I mentioned at the start of the webinar. You have an email composer tool. That's where you build any email communications that you want to send out. The landing page module allows you to build web pages and add things like sign up forms to them. There's a survey module. So if you use something like SurveyMonkey, you could also set up surveys in Swift. We'll have a look at some of the surveys that you can build within the platform. There's an SMS component. So if you want to build and send SMS campaigns to a list of mobile numbers, you're able to do that directly within Swift. And then the next 2 modules are our automation modules. So Triggers is more of a simple automation module. It allows you to automate one-off communications. And Campaign Builder allows you to create advanced user journeys. So you could imagine people are going down different paths and different email communications or SMS communications for that matter are firing off to them. We'll have a look at these 2 modules more in depth to give you a good idea of what features they contain. And then also we have our events module. So if you run any events and you want to capture things like registrations, bookings, you can set those up and run those through our events module. Now within Swift, we have our foundational modules. So those would be things like an art library. This is where you can go to load any images that you want to use across the platform. So you drag and drop your images here to load them. And then once you've loaded them, you can drag them into any landing pages or emails that you want to use. So things like logos, banner images, that sort of thing. There's also image editing capabilities in here. You can crop and resize, even add text on top of your banner images. So there's no limit on the number of images that you can store within your Swift account. Just keep adding images and you tag them so that they're easy to find in the future. We also have a file library, which allows you to upload and store things like PDF documents, Word documents. So this is quite handy if you're sending out an email communication and you want people to be able to download a PDF document that you're sending out. You can load the PDF document here and then just include a link for people to download from your email communications. And then the last foundational module that I'll talk about is the Mailhouse, and that really is the database area. So this is where you'd go to load any lists. We call them mail groups, but this is where you'd load your lists within the platform. Each list will contain a different number of contacts. There's no limit to the number of lists that you can have, and also no limit to the number of contacts that you can have. We also don't charge on a per contact basis in the database, so you can add as many contacts as you'd like in the database without it affecting your pricing or having to change to different pricing tiers. You have the ability within the database area to create your own audience segments as well. That's all done through our target query tool. So for example, you can see there's a target query that I've set up here. This would run through the entire database and it would find any contacts whose state equals Victoria and whose age range equals 18 to 30. You're able to set up these sort of segmentations based on any data fields that you have, and you can create those data fields in the database as well. So once you've created your data fields and you've imported your contact data, then you can start to create these sort of segments that will create a segment that you can then publish email or SMS communications out to. Um, for those of you who are running location-based events, we also have a postcode radius tool that might be really useful to you. So you could say find all recipients whose postcode radius is within 30 kilometers of postcode 3000. Um, and then that would also run through the database and find anyone who meets those conditions. Then you could send like an event invitation out to them. All right, we probably won't spend too much more time on the database area. I'd like to get to other areas of the platform, but I will say there is this custom fields area. This is where you'd go to create any custom field that you want to include in the database. So things like location data, position, job title. Really, you can create a data field for anything. We have different field types that you can create from simple text fields to single choice fields, which works really well for things like states. Um, but it's the database area, the Mailhouse is quite flexible with allowing you to create your own data fields, create your own segments, and store different contacts in different lists. And again, you can restrict access to these lists. So if you have different business areas using the database, you can create different folders and then you can control who has access to the lists within certain folders. That's all managed within the folders tab up here. All right, we'll go down the list of modules here to give you a good idea of what's included. Let's start with the email composer module first. So I'll jump in there. One thing to know with Swift is when you onboard with us, we take your brand guidelines and we will custom build templates according to your brand guidelines. So it's not like you kind of sign up and get started straight away and try to design or build your own templates. Our onboarding process is quite comprehensive and and we'll take and build custom branded templates for you. So that would include a newsletter template, a general communications template, landing page template, and survey template. So when you get started with Swift, from the very beginning, you'll have a fresh set of branded templates to use. Normally, you would take those templates and clone them to create future editions. You can also create your own documents or templates within the platform by cloning an existing one to create a new one. But when you are creating new templates, or new documents, you have different wireframe options. So you can see you can create documents with sidebars if you'd like. And each thumbnail that you see here represents a different email document. We also have sample wireframes for existing clients in the webinar. You may not have noticed this before, but you can click on sample wireframes and you can select one that you might like and you can clone that and then adapt that to suit your needs. But I'm going to jump into this newsletter example of a newsletter that we built for the AFP. We'll have a look at that. So first of all, when you're editing emails or newsletters within Swift, you are editing the document as you're looking at it. So you can see I've just added a new row. I can add a row with up to 4 columns. So quite easy to add new rows of content. Once you've added a row, you just click and drag the content widgets from the left-hand side to start building out your communications. So you can have, a standard text block, or you can drag in an image. You can even add things like YouTube videos. We have some great engagement tools that you can add. You can add polls, which will allow you to get quick feedback from your audience. You can add multiple polls per email if you'd like. Last year, we launched our newest feature, which is a general feedback feature. So you can add these to your communications. Another example is the one underneath this fly in, fly out article, just asking if your readers found that article interesting. So you can see when you add the content widget, you can use emoji format, which makes it a bit more social, or thumbs up, thumbs down, star ratings, even satisfaction scores. The goal with adding these sort of engagement features is to try and drive more clicks. With the changes made last year by Apple of blocking open rates from being reported. Open rates are not as accurate or reliable as they used to be, but click data is still very accurate. So anything that you can add to your communications to get people to click more links will increase your overall engagement rates, and that data will be more reliable over time to you. Also with Swift, when we onboard you, and when we're designing your templates, we'll build up to 15 styles for you to select from. So it makes it really easy for you to swap between brand approved brand elements and still stay consistent no matter who's working on your communications. We do also give you the ability to override these if you'd like. If you have a special event and you need to change it to a specific color, you can change those here. And you have some additional formatting controls as well. So it's all very easy to use, no coding knowledge required. And I'm going to jump into the preview of this newsletter and talk a bit more about some of the features that our newsletters include. So let me jump here. So this is a preview. This is the web version of the email that we were just looking at. But one feature that's quite unique to Swift is this in this issue feature. So this acts as a table of contents to the content that is down below. So you can see there's a fly in, fly out article. There's a video article. So if we scroll down, we'll see that here. The video is also down here. So we find, especially with lengthy newsletters, people don't actually scroll to the bottom of the newsletter. So they don't know what content's down below that they might be interested in, but they're missing out on. So by including a table of contents at the top of the newsletter, someone might see something that they're interested in, for example, this video, they click that and it jumps them straight down to that article. So that's great from a user experience perspective, but also it's really great for you because you get all the click data so you can see which articles are most popular amongst your readers based on which articles they're clicking on from the table of contents. Another feature is the ability to tailor article content to people based on data attributes. So for example, what state they're in. I'll show you how this works when we jump back into the editor. But in this case, because I'm in Victoria, I'm seeing the block that was meant for Victoria, for staff in Victoria. If you were in New South Wales, you would see a totally different block that's meant for staff in New South Wales. So you can use these sort of tailored content within your emails to display different article blocks. It doesn't have to be location-based. It could be based on topics of interest that someone's interested in, or maybe certain business areas sees certain content. You can add rules easily to any content that you add to your Swift emails. Another thing that is unique to Swift is the way that we handle read more buttons. Most platforms, when you click read more, it sends you off to your website or you have to build a separate landing page. Our read more buttons will actually expand to show additional content, but still keep people in view of the newsletter. So you can see it's expanded to show additional paragraphs of text and an image here. So it allows me to read this content, but then still continue on engaging with other content. Anytime you send people away from your newsletter or email communications, there's a good chance that they're not going to come back, and then you're missing out on future engagement. And the same applies for like YouTube videos. So instead of sending them to YouTube, we play the video directly within the body of the newsletter. We want people to watch the videos and then continue on engaging with other content. So those are a few features that are quite unique to Swift and that also really help increase your engagement rates. Let's jump back to the editor and I'll just show you how easy it is to add dynamic content rules. That's what we call it, that allows you to control which audience segments see which content. So I'll jump back here. And you can see actually in the body of the newsletter, we have two articles, one for staff in New South Wales and one for staff in Victoria. So the way you set these rules is you just click the little check symbol next to your article row, and then it will pop up this dynamic content rules box. This is where you can start setting your rules. So in this case, you can see we're using the data field called state. So we're only displaying this article block to recipients whose state equals Vic. You can get quite specific with this. You can add, I think, up to, it's either 10 or 20 data attributes. So you could do it based off of state. I'm not sure if I have gender. You could do it off gender. So I've had clients who display like different imagery to people based on what gender they are, based on the data that you have. So you can get quite tailored with the content that you display to your audience members. Also, when you're using Swift across all modules, so let's say you're using Swift for events as well, you can add activity rules. So this would allow you to do something like only show this article block to people who attended a particular event that you're running in Swift. So for all of you that are attending this webinar, when we send out our next newsletter, we could add a rule to that that would say anyone who attended this webinar, show them this article block. And that could be an additional thank you message or something like that. But when you're using Swift for all solutions, events, surveys, email, it allows you to do these sort of advanced functionality where you can further tailor the content that your recipients see. All right. And since I touched a little bit on events, I'll show you just a couple event widgets that we have as well. So you have the ability to add calendars to your communications. You can assign your events to calendars, and then those events will automatically populate in your calendar. You can even include like the number of seats remaining to try and drive people to the event to register quickly. So you can add your own custom calendars. You can add RSVP blocks for people to register or decline attendance at an event. And also you can add Google Map widgets. So this just makes it very easy for you to add, if it's an event-related comm, or it doesn't even have to be event-related, if it's location-based, you can add in the map widget, type in any location. It'll pinpoint the location. You can even choose the zoom level for your event. So if it's a CBD event, you probably zoom in quite close, or for regional events, you'd probably zoom out a bit farther. But that's really handy, saves you from having to go and take like screenshots from Google or try and add it in yourself. All right. With Swift, everything is mobile responsive by default. So you don't need to do anything special. You can preview both the desktop and mobile versions. You'll see on mobile, it will stack everything to a single column layout. That all happens automatically for you. And if you are a government client or really anyone who cares, oh, sorry, let me close that. Anyone who cares particularly about accessibility, we also give you the ability to modify the text version. So once you've finished building out your HTML version of the email or newsletter, you can click on the text version. It will populate with the content that you've already provided. And then you can go through and you can clean this up. So for people who use screen readers, they'll get the text version, and it's a nice way for you to be able to customize or control what that person actually sees. Once you are ready to publish your email, I'll show you a few publishing features that we offer. So one is a spam score. We'll double check the content of your email to make sure that nothing's going to trigger any spam filters. You can double check any links within the body of your newsletter or email just to make sure none of them are broken. You can pre-schedule your email. So if I wanted this email to go out tomorrow at 9 a.m., you can easily schedule that, and then it will go to a queue where it waits to be published. Of course, you can customize things like your pre-header or your subject line. But one thing I wanted to point out is the ability to do A/B testing on your subject line. So you can enter two different subject lines and then set an analysis period. Each subject line will be sent to 10% of your audience. And then after the analysis period, it will check to see which subject line performed best based on open rate. And the remaining 80% will automatically get the best performing subject line. And you can further customize the sender name and email address that you're sending your communications from. During our onboarding process, there's quite a bit of setup we do with your email sending domain and also your account subdomain. You'll never see Swift branding anywhere. Everything will be highly branded to you and your organization. And then the final steps would be just to choose which recipients or mail lists you want to publish your communication to. All right. Once you've published your email, you will immediately start getting live statistics back through the reporting area. So I want to show you the kind of data that you'll receive in the reporting area. I'm going to jump into a different screen that I pulled up earlier. You can see we're still in the reports tab now, but this is a live email that we published. This is real data. I just wanted to show you what comes through. So first of all, you'll get your top level stats. Those will include things like the success rate, any emails that bounced, those that opened, those that clicked. Any numbers that you see here, you can click to drill down and see who those contacts are. So if I wanted to see the 26 email addresses that bounced, I could click and drill down. I can then export that data if I wanted to. Same with opens or clicks. My favorite feature is the click map, and that will pull up a visual view of your email or newsletter, and it shows you the total number of clicks next to each link. So this is just really nice to visually see how many people are clicking your different articles. But you can pull that up and you can print or save this as a PDF. You'll also get charts, and you can download these charts or data if you want to include them in your own reports. And down below, you'll get even more detailed reporting. So you can see here, if you were using like the reactions and rating features, you'll see the results shown in line here. You can see by far, based on the number of clicks, the article on spam traps from this edition was the most interesting article. It got the most clicks. Quite a few people liked this, and quite a few were surprised by this article as well. So that just shows you the benefits of using kind of these reactions and ratings tools. Any of these links you can again drill down on. So just to give you an example, we had 120 unique people click on this spam trap article. I could click to view who those contacts are, or I could also take these contacts and add them to a mail group in Swift. And then I could send a follow-up targeted communication on spam traps to that audience. I know that they're already interested in spam traps. So if I add them to a new group and send them a dedicated comm on spam traps, that comm is going to get really high engagement rates. So that's just an example of how you can use this data to inform future campaigns that you might try sending out. In addition to your click data, you'll get a time graph that will show you over the first 2 days what time of day people are opening your email. Give you a quick look at that. So you'll see like any little spikes along the way when people are opening your email. You can see what devices and operating systems people are using, location data, if people have subscribed or unsubscribed. Top domains can be really useful. It groups your recipients by their organization, so you can see organization by organization how performance is going. That's always interesting to look at. So that top domains feature is something that can be overlooked, but it can be really useful and provide powerful insights. And then if you're using polls or article tags, general feedback, all of that's going to be visible in here as well. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how comprehensive reporting is in Swift. You also have the ability to compare your editions over time. So you could pull up like a year's worth of newsletters and see how your open or click rates are trending. Are they trending up or down? The compare stats tool will allow you to do that. All right, I'm going to jump to the next module on the list, which is our landing page module. This one won't take too long to get through, but there's a few different things you can do with landing pages. I have a couple examples I want to show you. Oh, let me jump back into this account. See if it has me log in again. No, we're still good. So with landing pages in Swift, you can build landing pages, which would be something like a very simple subscription form. So this is just an example of a page that was built. You add the form widget, you just click and drag that here, and then you can choose what data fields you want to capture on this form. You can choose which data fields are mandatory. So it's really easy for you to stand up your own subscription forms, or you could do like an expression of interest form for an upcoming event. But you can build those and publish them to the web, and each page will have its own unique URL. You can take that URL, it would be a URL branded to you, and then you can distribute that across any channel. So this is an example of a simple subscription form. You can also do things like lead capture pages or lead capture forms. So this example from Mac Solutions is more similar to that. So you can provide more information if you're trying to get people to submit their data with you. You can, again, add your own contact form, have different data fields, choose what you want people that are required for them to submit. Include things like YouTube videos on the page. So this is a more advanced version of a landing page. I've had clients who will use landing pages to build event microsites or websites. So you have like a page, a welcome page, a page on the agenda, speakers, and then of course registration. So you could build a different page in Swift and then link them all together through a navigation. So really, you can use landing pages for anything. It kind of be like building a web page on your website and publishing it. Um, but with Swift, it's very easy for you to do, and it uses the same platform. This is also a way for you to trigger or begin some of your automation journeys. So for example, this Max Solutions landing page, let's say people fill out this form and they press submit. That would add them to a group in Swift in your database, but that could also trigger a welcome email. So that welcome email gets sent to them automatically. And then off the back of that welcome email, you could have a series of other campaigns set up that will automatically fire to people. So you'd build another email and say, 7 days after the welcome email sent, send email B. And then 14 days later, send email C. You can set up those sort of automations. We'll have a look at that when we get to the marketing automation page. Of course, with landing pages, just like with email, reporting, you'll get things like page lands, form submission data, goal conversions. Um, any link clicks on the page will also be recorded. So you'll see all of that data in the reports area as well. All right. With surveys, I'm going to go pretty quickly through surveys just in the interest of time, but I will show you an example of a survey and some of the capabilities within Swift. So you can set up surveys, you can brand them with your own banner and footer image. There's about 15 different question types that you can add to your surveys. So this is just the first question is a rated question. You rate from poor to excellent. But you can also add conditional or branching logic to your surveys. So you could, in this case, if someone rates poor, then you can have a field appear that asks them to provide more information as to why they've rated that way. So that's an example of branching logic. But there are other field types that you can do, like these table matrix groups where people are rating different categories of the event. You can have essay form feedback, checkboxes, drop downs, radio buttons. Some of the other fields, another popular field is a file upload field. So you can add a file upload field. If you want to do something like digitize any paper-based forms and make a web version, you could, and if you have, if people need to submit forms or documents, you could add the file upload question for people to load things like PDFs or Word documents. And then you can capture that as people are submitting the results. That will all come through the survey module as well. So if let me jump into surveys quickly. And by the way, existing clients who are used to using the survey module, you will probably be pleased to know that the survey module is being rebuilt. So there will be a new version. It's planned to be released by the end of the year. So the survey module that you're using now will still exist, and you'll still be able to run your surveys through it, but we'll have a new module available to you by the end of the year that will be a bit more like the way that you build emails or landing pages. It'll be more of a drag and drop capability. But with your surveys, you'd build them out here. So this is an example of the survey that I just added. If you want to add a question, you can click to add a question, and these are the different question types. You can include date fields. Phone number will validate that it's a proper Australian phone format. And that upload documents. There's also a signature panel. So if you want to capture people's signatures, you can add those two question types as well. But once you start getting once people start responding to your surveys, you'll start to get those results here. So you can just come in and view how they've rated the event. This is just an example of some ratings, but you can also come up here and just export the data to CSV. So you can do a quick data export of everything or print everything to PDF if you'd like as well. That's the survey capabilities. The next one on the list would be SMS. So with SMS campaigns, you would set them up within the platform, and they're very simple to create. So you'd create an SMS campaign, you'd type in the message. I didn't mention it when we were looking at the email composer, but you do have the ability to personalize your communications, whether it's an email communication or an SMS communication. So in this case, you can see we're personalizing with their first name. If they don't have a first name, the backup's going to say there. So it's say hi there. Any data field that you have in the system, you can include as personalization. Same in email. So you can add your own personalization. You type out your message, save that, and then you can send test SMS to yourself, or you can go through the publishing process and you'd schedule the mail groups or the list of mobile numbers that you want to send the SMS from. When you're sending an SMS, and you probably have noticed this on your own mobile phones, some messages will come through from a number. When a message comes through from a number, it allows the recipient to reply back to the number. If you are doing that, that's called a two-way communication. Any replies sent back will be shown to you up here in the reporting area. So you do have the ability to get replies, and things like stop requests will automatically be handled by Swift, just to keep you in compliance with the Spam Act. If you send one way, we register a name for your organization that you can send from. With one-way communications, it doesn't allow recipients to reply. You'll probably see a message that says you're not able to reply to this short code. That's because it's a one-way name and you can't reply to names. So you can send either way through Swift. If you do send one way, then you need to provide another method for people to opt out or unsubscribe, and we can help you with that when we're onboarding you. All right, before we get to the automation modules, I'm gonna go to events. I have a few examples of registration forms that I've already picked out that I want to show you, just to show you the different types of forms that you can build and run through Swift. But you would build your events in the event module. And then when you are setting up your registration forms, they might look something like this. So you can have an example of a pretty simple registration form where people fill in their details and they click to register. Once someone registers, they'll come through the platform in the event. You can see the total number, like your capacity, the total number registered. All of your registrants will come through under this registration table. This is also where you can see your attendance data. So this is an example of a simple registration form. We allow you to run paid events through Swift. So if you need to capture ticketed events, then you can set up your own ticket options. People can choose a quantity. You can put a maximum number on the quantity as well. But we will allow paid events, and we'll integrate with your bank's payment gateway. Your bank will process the funds and add them straight away to your own bank account. You can also do multi-session style events. So this is an example where you might have two different sessions that you're running. You want people to be able to book into one or more. So you can set up your different sessions and people can select which ones they want to attend and then book in. And then the other multi-session example would be if you want them to choose one of the available sessions. So an example of this would be like a hybrid style event. So you'd have like people who choose in person, and then they can choose the total number of tickets they want to book in person or webinar. With webinar, we've recently completed Zoom integration. So if you use Zoom, and Teams is forthcoming, it should be ready in the next month or so, but you can integrate your webinars with Swift, and then that will do things like track when people arrive at the seminar, at the webinar. It'll show you the time they arrived, the time that they leave, the duration that they spent in the webinar. So that can be really useful to integrate with Zoom or Teams if you use either one of those. Also, some other really useful things to point out within the Swift events module is you are able to print your own name tags. You can upload your own templates and pull things through like the person's name, their job title, organization. You can even brand your labels. and then you'd print them directly from Swift. So you don't need to try and use mail merge in Excel to try and get your labels to work. Swift will take care of all of that for you. And we also have an event check-in app that you can use. So when someone registers, they'll get a confirmation email, and that confirmation email would look something like this. So it has the details of the event, session details. They can add the event to their calendar, depending on the calendar client that they use. And there'll also be a QR code. You can turn this on or off. So for webinars, you probably would turn it off, but for physical events, you'd leave it on. And then you can use the Swift check-in app. You can download that on any Apple or Android device. You can use that to record attendance at the event. So you can just either mark someone as having attended or scan the QR code to check them in. All right. There are some other features. Events can take, I mean, there's quite a bit of functionality within events. If you're interested in seeing events in more detail, I'll have a link at the end of the webinar for you to sign up at if you'd like to do a more detailed demo of the event module. But it includes standard features of functionality like capacity. You can enable wait lists. So once the capacity has been met, you can limit who can register for your events. So if they're exclusive events, you can say only contacts that I've sent an email invitation to can register. So there is some built-in functionality like that within the Swift Events module. All right. And lastly, I just wanted to spend a bit of time talking about our triggers and campaign builder modules. Those are two of our marketing automation modules. The triggers is a more simplified version, and it comes included in all licenses that we offer. So if you're an existing client, you will already have access to the triggers module on your account. But the triggers module allows you to set up things like action triggers or date-based triggers. I'll show you an example of a date-based trigger. So we have an example here for the Victorian Building Authority, and we have a building registration expiry. So let's say in the database, we have a list of contacts, and alongside each contact, we have a building registration expiry date. Each contact has a different expiry date, but we want to set up communications that go out before the expiry date based on, so it could be like a 60-day renewal notification email, a 30-day renewal notification email. So in this case, it's a 6-month notice of registration expiry. So what we want to do is we want to pick a date field in the database. So the date field is called building registration expiry, and each contact would have a different date in that field. So we'd say, all right, 6 months before the building registration expiry, that's 180 days. So 180 days before the building registration expiry date at 9 a.m., we want to publish an email to that contact. That email, just as an example, might look something like this. Oh, I've made a mistake there, pulling in my last name. Things like that are easy to do. But what you're really looking at here is pulling in personalization like the building name, the building registration number, the expiry date. So all of these are data fields that would automatically pull in based on the data that you have on that contact in the database. And then you've created that email in the email area. So you set that up here. So what will happen is for each contact 180 days before their building registration expiry at 9 a.m., they will be triggered this email. Now, it's also very easy to do an SMS instead if you'd like to do an SMS. So quite often clients will do maybe a couple email. So you'll have an email maybe 6 months out. You'll have another email trigger 3 months out, and then maybe an SMS that goes 30 days before. You can set those up as separate triggers individually. That's an example of a date-based trigger. You could also do an action trigger. So for example, we have a survey feedback example. So in this case, the action is an email has been sent. So if an email has been sent, then in this case, 90 days later, we want to send a follow-up email. So after that first email sent, it's a welcome email in this case, you can see here. So after the welcome email sent, then 90 days later, send a follow-up email, or you could send a follow-up SMS as well. Other actions, you can do it based on clicks. So let's say you send out an email and you want them to click certain links within the email. You can get very specific down to the link clicks. So I don't have a lot of links in this email, but let's say they click the unsubscribe link. No, that's a bad example. You wouldn't want to send follow-ups based on an unsubscribe click. But let's say they click the forward link to forward it to a friend. You can say when they click this link, then trigger a follow-up communication. It might be like 7 days later, send a follow-up communication to them. So that's how that works. We didn't really look, but under date triggers, there's also the ability to do it based off of them not opening an email. So I have a lot of clients that will send an email and then they'll have a date trigger that says if they don't open the email within 3 days, send a follow-up email or send a follow-up SMS. So that's another type of trigger that you could set up in the triggers module. The next module I want to review with you is Campaign Builder, which is available as an add-on to any license that we offer. And Campaign Builder is more advanced. It's more of a kind of a user journey or user flow. It's very visual in the way that you set it up. So you can see here we have different emails. We've got a welcome email, email 2, email 3, email 4. So what you see here is when the welcome email is sent, then 2 days later, send email 2, and then 7 days later, send email 3, and then 30 days later, send email 4. So you set up these sort of nurture journeys to automatically fire off to people. And then when email 4 is sent, we have additional actions on that. So if email 4 gets opened, then at 9 a.m. the next day, we're going to send email 5A. If email 4 goes unopened for 3 days, then we're going to send a different email. We're going to send email 5B. So you can set up those sort of triggers. And also you can even follow that up with an SMS. So if email 4A goes unopened for 3 days, we're going to send this email 5B. If email 5B also goes unopened for 3 days, we're going to send an SMS. So that's one way to try and get your content in front of people if they're not engaging or interacting with you. There's different types of triggers that you can set up when you're using Campaign Builder. It's quite powerful and it'd be worth a demo or a training on its own. But you can see some of the different type of triggers that you can set up. So if someone opens an email or if they don't open an email, if an email is just sent, you can also have staff notified when someone reaches a certain point in a journey. So you'll enter the staff email address and the content, which would say, this person has reached this point in the journey, please follow up with them or something like that. Or a good way to end a journey is just to add any contacts that make it to the end to a mail group. So you can create a mail group in the database area and then contacts would be added to that group. Also, we give you the ability, this is more advanced, but we give you the ability to add conditions to your triggers. So you might have, actually, I have a good example of that. Let me jump to a different campaign. So we have this promo campaign and we have conditions based on the age range that someone sits within. So you can see the follow-up emails here. They'll get a welcome email, and then we have promo emails that go out 30 days later. So if their age range is 18 to 30, they'll get this follow-up email. If they're 31 to 50, they'll get this follow-up email. And if they're 50 plus, then they'll get this follow-up email. So that's a way that you can use conditions to control the future campaigns or emails that someone might receive. And again, that can be based on any data field. It doesn't have to be age range, could be state or location. But that is an overview of the Campaign Builder module. All right, that is, I think we made it through all the different modules in Swift. Hopefully that gives you a good overview of the platform. You can see just how easy it is to jump in between different modules and how having them all in one platform is really beneficial in linking different features across modules. I'm going to jump back into the presentation now. We'll have a look at some of the automation campaigns that I've seen clients run in Swift. And then we'll probably jump straight to questions after that if there are any questions. But these are some examples of marketing automation campaigns that I've seen clients set up in the platform. So nurture campaigns is a really good example where you have a series of email or SMS campaigns that automatically fire at different points in the journey. So these could be things like new service enrollments, educational campaigns, compliance and safety info. That's a really good one. If you're in, a health and safety sort of environment, you might have people who subscribe to receive more information, and then over a series of months, they'll get automated emails sent to them that include safety information. Re-engagement or sunset campaigns is another good example of that. So conditional workflows, we just went through those. We had a look at those in the trigger module. So you can resend emails to people who didn't open your first email or send follow-up comms based on them clicking on specific links. Actionable feedback loops is an interesting one. What I mean by that is you could set up a landing page with a form, and then someone could be giving feedback. So let's say they're giving feedback on a program that they participated in. If they rate a certain, like let's say they rate the overall performance of the program as poor, you could automatically have them enter a new trigger campaign based on that to try and improve their future experience with you or to provide more information to them. So based on the feedback that they give you, it determines whether they enter additional workflows. Date-based comms, so things like permit renewals, license expiries, service anniversaries. Transactional communications, welcome emails we talked about. So the Swift platform automatically handles transactional communications for you. So that would be things like event registrations, application or form submissions, including survey forms, and receipt and invoice confirmations. We have been doing a lot of work over the last year or so with clients to set up web-initiated communications. So let's say you publish content to your website and you want that content to automatically be picked up by emails and published to your audience. We can work with you to build custom solutions so that we'll pick up the data from your website, create an email automatically, and publish it out to your audience based on their preferences without you having to do anything. And these just run automatically. So it works really well for media alerts, any new content that you're posting to your websites, or things like product recalls and safety alerts. And then finally, crisis and emergency communications. We've just recently completed a project for the Department of Transport and Planning Victoria, where we send out automated email alerts to different contacts, depending on what they've subscribed to, based on things like road closures or unexpected traffic incidents, that sort of thing. So you can imagine the number of emails that go out on a daily basis for something like that. But that's another example of marketing automation that we could work with you on. Now, we don't have time to go through some of the features for stakeholder engagement. So I'm going to leave that in the presentation file, and you can review these later on. There's a few really good examples in here that will show you different types of content that you could try adding to your own emails or newsletters to try and increase engagement. So have a read through that. There's a case study here from Commonwealth Super where they use dynamic or personalized content. So have a read through that. And then also we have some assets that you can download. So there's a checklist here. If you're considering a new email service provider, there's email newsletter best practices guide, and then a stakeholder communications plan. So you'll be able to download these from the presentation file that we send through as well. But I know that we have just hit time. So I want to thank you all again for taking the time out of your day to join and learn a little bit more about Swift. Hopefully you've seen some things that you can take away and implement in your own platform that you're using, or you might be considering coming across to Swift. And I'd be more than happy to set up an additional conversation or a more detailed demo with you as well. So if you would like to book a consult, even if you're an existing client and you want strategy advice on something you've seen today, feel free to scan the QR code, or you can click on the link when we send it through. You can book in a demo with me across the next couple of weeks or so. For those of you who don't have to leave, we can stay back. I'll see if there's any questions that we need to follow up on. But otherwise, thanks again for taking the time to join. And hope you all have a great week. Let's see. If you can stick around and you'd like to hear some of the questions that have been asked, feel free. I'll probably continue on for another 5 minutes or so. All right, we've got a couple questions. All right, let's see. So the first question is it necessary to manually remove contacts who've hard bounced, or does Swift handle it automatically? Yeah, good question, because you want to be sure that any email addresses that do bounce get removed from future sends. There's a few different reasons for that, but Swift will automatically handle both bounces and unsubscribes. So if an email address bounces and if it's a hard bounce, we will stamp that contact profile with a bounce stamp. And then when you try to send to them in the future, we'll automatically remove them from receiving that email. That's necessary to keep great email deliverability results. You don't want to be sending to previously bounced email addresses, but it's also good from a cost perspective because you don't want to pay to send to email addresses that have previously bounced. And the same applies to unsubscribes. All right. And are there any reports that show different devices used? Yes. So in the reporting area, when you're looking at the email statistics, in fact, I can pull that back up again. But you will have data that shows what devices people are using. Let me find that. Do I still have it open? Yeah, I think I've closed that window, but you will have the ability to see what devices people are using. So it'll show you desktop, mobile. It'll also show you specifically what device they're using. Apple blocks us from reporting that they're using like a mobile device. So that will appear in an other category. So if you see a large segment in other, it's because Apple's just blocking that data from anyone reporting it. But if it depends on your audience as well, if you send to a lot of internal contacts, or if it's a lot of business to business type contacts, then the data is usually pretty accurate as to what devices or operating systems they're using. All right, I think that was all of the questions. So we will go ahead and end the webinar there. Thank you all again for joining. We run these every so often, so try to do it about every 3 to 6 months or so. So if you would like to join us again in the future, just keep an eye out for future invitations from us. Thanks very much, and yeah, enjoy your day and have a good weekend, everyone.